I think it's really important that a university has an event like this under the aegis of the newly formed Institute for Creative Enterprise, because media discussions are vital for the greater health of both the university, the communities it works with, but also to develop viewpoints that can be expressed wider than university about significant issues. And I think the interest that's been generated about Benefit Street is both timely and also full of lots of different stories and myths. For example, the depiction of the people in the Benefit Street series.
I'm here as newspaper historian, but looking at the relatively recent history of the coverage of the working class, and in particular the feral or underclass in the middle market press, and in particular the Daily Mail. I think it's important that the ideological battles that have been fought in the middle market haven't just been about demonising the underclass, but actually have had some very quite profound effects on how we view welfare benefit, welfare reform, and the safety nets that have been won by trade unions and the organised labour movement in the 20th century. I think a day like today is absolutely essential because we're coming to a point where the contestation of these issues is becoming increasingly important because of a lack of representation at Westminster, and this could be one of the defining battles for the early part of the 21st century, and I'm pleased to be playing a part in discussing it here.
I think it's important to get academics together in an environment like this to talk about how the media and cultural industries represent people who are effectively victims of an economic crisis that wasn't of their making.
This symposium has been looking at class from that perspective, like trying to understand or reassert its location within people's sort of lived experience. So I think that's really interesting, and also really important if we're going to stop the terrible stuff that's going on in our society.
I think the symposium is a really good idea for two reasons actually. I think it's really important that these kind of topics that are discussed, that we talk about poverty, that we talk about austerity within the context of the working class who obviously are being affected the most. But I also think it's really important that what the symposium is trying to do, or people who have organised it are trying to do, is connect academia to the wider world and to those problems. So I think it's a really great thing that's being done here.
Yeah, and I mean, the specific focus is the media and how the media mediates and represents those issues of class and inequality. I think it's been really interesting. We've had a little bit of a sense of the different practices that have happened in the media. For example, we've heard from about Channel 4 workshop movement in the 80s, very different practices then to the kinds of dominant television practices now. And we can see that things have definitely regressed. We've looked at, seen people doing kind of access sort of work where people go and provide a framework and opportunity for other people to make their own films and videos and express themselves.
I think you're right, things have regressed, but I think actually one of the other things that keeps coming up is actually how much hasn't changed, that the kind of discourses around people on social security is exactly the same now, the whole scroungers and shirkers. Those kind of words being used 30 years ago and they're still being used now. So it shows you that yes, things do change, but a lot of things stay the same, and the relationships between the kind of people in power and the working class actually hasn't changed very much at all.
Well, that was one of the things that we were talking about was how a sort of cultural moralising discourse, which is in play now around working people, working class people, that they're scroungers and they're skivers and they're parasites and they're an obstacle to modernity and so on. That was in play 150 years ago when Engels was writing about the condition of the working class, and that in itself indicates that there's some systemic problems structural systemic problems that haven't really been addressed in all that time.
And it also should suggest that class is the most important determinant, that it does cover gender, race, ethnicity, the whole intersectionality debate. I think it's really, really interesting that the biggest determinant, and you can see that in all of the papers, is class. And that has been made quite clear today, I think.